Welcome to the Frontline with FPM, where we talk about California politics, homeschool freedom, parental rights, and the family. I'm your host, Nathan Pierce, and thanks for joining us today. Let's jump right in and see what's going on here on the Frontline. All right. Well, we have a list to go through today, so let's jump in. Thanks, Drew, for pulling some of this information together and agreeing to talk through the list that we've got.
Yeah, of course.
Fortunately, there's no super bad news, so I'm happy to say that right up front. Even though we've got 160 bills so far in this session, and we're barely, we're
Just under 2 weeks in.
nine business days into it or something.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and many more to come. So, yes. Yeah. Legislation is not something that we say many happy returns about, but we are where we are. So we've got exactly 160 bills so far in this session, and no new major bills to report on at this point since our last podcast. So but I expect in the next month or two we'll definitely have some more to talk about there. Since we are able to this time, we want to mention a couple of deadlines. The legislature operates on a series of deadlines because they need to keep things moving forward in their process of getting legislative bills through the process, through the cycle of legislation as it goes through. And if you're interested in a more detailed overview of that process, we do have a video specifically on that topic called The Life Cycle of Legislation that's really helpful, walking you through the process of how a bill becomes law in California. So you're welcome to check that out as well. But the deadlines that are going to be coming up in the next few months that are going to really be driving a lot of the intensity of the legislative activity that we'll be following. One is in February and one is in April. So the first one in February 17th, is when bills are supposed to be introduced. Now, they can get a rule waiver after that, but for the most part, almost all the legislation for this year is going to be introduced by February 17th. And because February 17th is the deadline and everybody's got lots to do, not most, but a majority of those bills are going to be introduced in the last few days, right leading up to February 17th. So we'll have a bunch of bills right in that last few days before February 17th. And we're talking our total at that point on February 17th is going to be probably between 2,000 and 3,000 bills. So be prepared to be ready for kind of getting pulled in different directions, because there's going to be bills on different subjects that you're going to be concerned about. And so we want to be ready for that. And we will be trying to figure out bills as soon as they're introduced earlier on, so that we get those out of the way and start working strategy on them prior to that last rush of bills, because it does get pretty wild right there at the end. The next deadline is in April, which is something that drives April a lot. And we'll get into that in a minute, but this February deadline kind of runs our lives for a little bit, right, Drew? I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, the last couple weeks running up until then, I mean, the amount of bills that I go through every morning, it skyrockets, and beyond just the bills being introduced, all of the last minute ones being introduced before that deadline, there's also a huge amount of them that are going to be introduced the first couple weeks of January, and those are all still moving through. So those need to be, reanalyzed each time they move through a committee, or they're amended, or they're gutted and then redone. And so and a lot of it just comes down to legislators getting an idea out there without a bill behind it, just getting a bill number out there before the deadline. And so a lot of them are just, they could be anything, and
Right.
so they really don't take shape. Some of them don't take shape until after the deadline because they have to get out there. And so, a
Yeah.
legislator may have a general idea and they just kind of push it out there before the deadline passes.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me too. I'm glad you brought up the first couple of weeks of January too, because that's also when the bills that have been introduced in December will be able to be acted on because of that 31-day rule. Stuff that got introduced in early December, right after the swearing in, those bills have to go through their 31-day waiting period, and then they'll be able to be acted on what is it, the 5th, is the beginning of
Yeah,
seeing
the
that
5th
happen.
is the earliest. It's the for the bills that were introduced on the day the session started on December 5th, that
Yeah,
31-day rule expires on January 5th. So that's when they can officially be heard in a committee.
right. So there will be some bills um able to be heard in committees the first week or two of January, and then other bills that are introduced the first week or two of January, they won't be able to be heard in committee right away, but um, they'll be able to be heard 31 days after that, which puts us into February.
Exactly.
Um, so it gives us a little bit of time to process all this stuff that's coming in.
It's kind of
That being said,
it's kind of a rolling of waves, you know, and the big
right?
waves
Yeah,
are going to be coming in the next 2 months.
yeah, exactly. So that's a great way to put that. It seems like we may get rolled over multiple times during
Yeah.
that process as well.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out, where what these bills are, because we get them initially and we have to figure out what they're doing, and then we do deeper analysis on some of them. So that's something that we're figuring out as we go along through the waiting period. And in January, we'll be getting more bills to try to start filtering and sorting and figure out which ones we have to do our deeper analysis on, and get outside input on. We are already talking with legislative staff about some of these bills, trying to figure
Yeah.
out what did you mean by that. So
What does this actually do?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And a lot of them don't know yet, you know.
Right.
So, which
Yeah.
is which is fun to
Yeah.
find out.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So we've got all that kind of going on during January and into February, and then March, we start having real in earnest and push in committee hearings, where we have the policy committees, which happen first. There's policy committees and fiscal committee hearings. Policy is where they decide about what happens with policy, what they think is good policy, versus the fiscal committees, where they decide how much money they have to spend on these policies. So the policy committees are where we're going to see things happening in March and leading into April. April 28th is the deadline for bills that are going to cost some money to the state to get out of their policy committees. So there's a lot of committee hearings in April leading up to that deadline, which is what gives April the name at the Capitol, the name of Hell Month, because it's so crazy and intense, and a lot of late nights in committee hearings,
Yeah.
while they try to figure out details on bills and get them passed, so that they can meet that April 28th deadline. So there's a lot to be being aware of in April as things get pushed through very quickly, and a lot of times that also means, as Drew mentioned earlier, you were talking about amendments and gotten amendments. That kind of stuff happens sort of at the last minute, a lot of times right before a vote in committee. So
Yeah.
there could be that happening on all kinds of different bills during that time period. So we'll be having to pay extra careful attention at that time. Anything else you want to say about deadlines? I mean, I know there's a plethora of other deadlines mixed in there and also after that, but
Yeah, I think those are the big ones, mostly just because those are where a lot of the bills that will have um, a lot of like specifically education policy related things, because California spends so much money on education. There's going to be so a lot of the things, the bills that come up on our radar are going to be moving through and trying to get out before that deadline in April. So there's
yeah,
definitely other ones, a lot in May. There's, there's a break at the end of June all through July. So they try and get a lot done before then. But I think the April 28th and the February 17th one definitely is a massive one, because after that, unless you have a rule waiver, you can't introduce any more bills. So all the ones that we're pretty much all the ones that we're going to
yeah,
see are going to be out there by that deadline. So
yeah, yeah. It's yeah. It'll be trying to figure out how to sort them and prioritize them at that point.
exactly.
Um, and yeah, we'll have our hands full. Since we're talking about that intense time, I kind of want to just give a short advertisement. If anybody is interested in this, we do have opportunities um, to learn about this process and to help out here at our office as an intern. So if you're interested in that, you can definitely check that out on our website. We have some information on that on our website under internships. So check that out because it's definitely something that can help us through this absolute crazy season. So
Yeah. I'm training
moving
a
on
couple
from that,
people. I'm training a couple people right now in these sort of internship pathways. And it's crazy looking back to realize how much there is to learn. But looking back at it, getting to teach people a lot of the things that I learned, it's very rewarding to get to see, the work you put in actually translate into change in the state. It's pretty cool. So just
yeah,
my 2 cents on that.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for that. Um, moving on from legislation itself, we also have our event Capitol Day coming up in January, which again, I think we mentioned last week, the seats are filling up pretty fast. Thank you everybody that has registered so far, that has both applied and registered. If you have applied and haven't quite finished your registration process, certainly do that. If you have applied and been approved, there is that other registration step. So if you've done the first half of that, but not the registration part, make sure that you go ahead and do that. But we are excited about some of the people we're talking to about speaking, right, Drew?
Yeah, definitely. I think having perspectives from various fields and kind of levels of work in California is going to be really helpful for people attending, just to see how these different, how we interact with the legislature, how other groups outside the legislature interact, how people within, the Capitol and around the Capitol, how it all works together, really, because we're all bouncing off of each other, some positive ways, some negative ways. And
Yeah,
so there's a lot of really great content, great things to learn
yeah,
from these people. So I'm
yeah,
excited. I'm excited to
and
see
I
them speak too.
yeah, yeah, me too. Some great energy and some great, like you said, great content, some really helpful and encouraging um ideas, and it's going to be really encouraging for
Yeah.
folks. Um, we're going to be also, in addition to our day of training at the Capitol, we'll be doing those office visits. So you'll get to meet with staff members at the Capitol offices of legislators, as well as um, um, get to meet some legislators as well, and get to learn your get to feel your way around the Capitol, and learn how that place functions in a real hands-on way, and a up close way. You'll be able to see the um, the chambers, and just really get a good feel for um, how that place functions, and what it feels like to be there. So
Yeah.
certainly looking forward to being there.
Well, I mean, we'll be there in the middle of the legislative session too, so things will be actively happening at that time. You know, there's going to be various like legislators running from office to office. There's going to be, you know, possibly committee hearings going on in various rooms and buildings, and so it'll be kind of during that first big push, that first wave, really. So it'll be really cool to see all
Yeah,
that in action.
yeah, it's going to be a definitely worth your time. Also, with regard to Capitol Day, during that same time period, so we're going to be at the Capitol on Thursday, the 19th. Our day of training is the day prior to that, the 18th, and that's when we're going to have a lot of great speakers. But then the day before that is happening. So if you're a leader, this event is going to be really helpful to you as well. The evening of the 17th of January is a leadership dinner that will be held at William Jessup University, and will be an encouraging event for you if you're a leader to check that out. I would encourage you. It doesn't matter how big or small your group is. Definitely come and check that out. It's available to register. Their registration is up now. It's being hosted by Chia of California, and I think there's going to be some other local folks there, as well as Chia folks who represent all of California, and have groups that are from all over the state, from the top to the bottom, as part of Chia. It's really incredible to be able to get together with other leaders. So I don't know how many leaders are going to be there, but it's going to be definitely encouraging to get together with some other leaders that are doing a lot of the same thing that you might be doing. So definitely try to make that happen in your schedule. It's the evening of January 17th.
And the we'll put links to Chia's page explaining, you know, giving specifics on the event and the registration. We'll put it up on the website. It'll be linked in the description, and so that people can find it easily.
Yeah, thanks, Drew. Also, we should put in a link if you haven't already applied or registered for Capitol Day. We'll put in a link to that too as well, so that you can be sure.
And that's also at the very top of our website, fpmca.org. It'll just be the first thing, big white box that says Capitol Day
that you see.
So
yeah, looking forward to that. And then I think that brings us to Freedom Watch, which is when Chia and FPM get together and talk about issues pertinent to maintaining our freedoms. That will be tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, Friday.
Well,
afternoon. So
it'll be the 16th. So and that's usually about 2:30 to 3.
It's usually right at 3 o'clock.
Okay.
Or close to it. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, and so, that'll be up on. Go ahead.
Yeah, it'll be tomorrow afternoon. So definitely try to make that. It's on Facebook Live on Chia's page, but we will also share it, and we usually post it to our YouTube account as well.
Yeah,
so,
and it'll be available afterwards. So it won't, you know, if you're not watching live, it'll go up on our website, on YouTube, on our Facebook. So if you miss it, that's okay. It won't disappear forever. You'll still be able to watch it and
Right.
hear about what happened. So yeah. And what sort of things are you guys going to be talking about?
Well, that is to yet be determined. I'm sure that there will be a little bit more on the leadership event because
Okay.
Chia will provide a little bit of info on that,
Yeah.
as well as any more updates that we have on Capital Day and leadership or
Are you
the legislation. So,
okay? Are you guys discussing the Respect for Marriage Act at all?
oh yeah, we may be doing a little bit of an update on that as well. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah,
yeah.
because now I believe it's been signed.
So yeah, we have a little bit of follow up to do on that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, it's been a busy week, but I think it's worth making it busy so that we can have a little bit more of a downtime. The legislature does take a little bit of a break for Christmas, although it's not as much as I would like them to take. Um, it seems like it could be better, but they will be taking a little bit of a break, so we can praise God for that, and we'll be definitely be reporting more on legislation as we get into the middle of January. But yeah, hope you guys, if we don't talk again between now and January, definitely want to. We will be posting something next week, but won't have legislative updates most likely, because it's unlikely anything is going to happen between now and then. Who knows? Who
The
knows?
legislators like their Christmas break, and I don't blame them. I mean, I enjoy
Yeah,
mine too. So
yeah,
the little bit
absolutely.
that there is.
So yeah, so if we don't see you again, Merry Christmas. Hope you have a great break if you have one, and hopefully things will come together nicely in January, and we'll be able to have nothing super bad, and that we'll be able to progress well on things. The other thing that we're um, very aware of here is that the bulk of our donations for FPM come in right at the end of the year. So we'll be praying for that. So we'd ask that you'd pray for that as well, that we get the provision that we need to continue on with the work we're doing.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
we're really thankful
until
for anything, any support.
yep, and until next time, we'll just wish you a Merry Christmas, and God bless all of you, and we'll talk again soon.
Yep. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Frontline with FPM. For more information about the topics we discuss here, check out Family Protection Ministries at fpmca.org and subscribe to our channel.